guys, it's Ariana. Welcome back to my channel. So for tonight's video, we're going to be reading some more scary stories. Again, I'm sorry I've been gone for so long, but I was out of the country. I had my bachelorette with my fiance. We had a Jack and Jill style bachelorette, and we went to Arizona, and we spent like 5 days just sitting by a pool and our little last hurrah with all of our friends. So I was gone for a little while and now I'm back. And honestly, I've been all over Reddit looking for some stories for you guys to read. And I do have a list of stories from like authors that I've reached out to over the last couple of months, but I'm trying to find more scary ones for you. And honestly, they just haven't really been getting back to me. So it's been harder to find content for you guys. So with that being said, if you guys have any spooky stories that you want to share with me or the channel, or if you have any Reddit authors that you guys enjoy reading or know of any spooky stories that you would like me to narrate, please send them my way and I would love to read them on the channel. They're from Reddit. I'll have to DM the authors and get permission, but send them my way regardless. I would love more of you guys' creepy stories or just stories in general that you think I would be interested in. So with that being said, I have a bunch of let's not meet stories to read today. So we're gonna go in a different direction. Usually we do paranormal and no sleep and spooky, but we're gonna do spooky let's not meet stories. And I find let's not meet stories can almost be more terrifying because people are fucked. So let's jump into the creepy stories. This is from the Let's Not Meet section. It is from the Reddit author majestic_band_6913, and it's titled, I tried to help a girl at 3 in the morning and I was probably the one that needed help. This happened literally yesterday, and I honestly don't think I've fully processed it yet. I'm 19 and my other friend was 19. We were biking home around 3 in the morning on the dimly lit street right next to our houses. On one side was forest, pitch black beyond the tree line, and the other side was a bunch of houses. From far away, we spotted a red car with one broken headlight parked ahead. As soon as we got closer, the car started moving, passing us very slowly. They made a U-turn and drove past us again. Even in the dark, it was obvious we were two girls alone at 3 in the morning. So we put up some space between us and them, and we soon got to the sidewalk. We noticed a girl standing partially hidden behind a white truck, watching the same red car we were. The car was creeping towards her now. Then she ran off, running up the sidewalk and turning into a bike path that cuts through the forest. Immediately, 2 men get out of the car and follow her into the forest. So we decided to try to help and follow the girl. Survival instincts clearly hadn't been kicked in yet. I live next to that forest and I know how dark it gets. No one walks that path without a flashlight unless they have a reason to. And even then, it was 3 in the morning. The slow footsteps, the bucket hat guy, the way the car disappeared, it all just felt wrong. We reached the path entrance and I saw the red car just waiting there. The driver, a guy in a white bucket hat, looked straight at us, then sped away far into the street. The path was pitch black and we walked in, fence on one side and dense forest on the other. And that's when I noticed a slow, deliberate sound. It was like footsteps, keeping pace with us. Definitely not an animal and definitely heavy enough to be a person. We kept walking until my friend spotted the girl ahead of us. She shined her flashlight and called out, "Hey, are you okay?" And the girl looked over her shoulder, stared at us for a moment with this unreadable, creepy expression, and then took off running deeper into the forest. At that point, our survival instincts finally kicked in. We turned and we sprinted back the way we came in, screaming as we ran. Now we did call the police as soon as we got back to the street, and within minutes, 3 police cars arrived. They asked us questions and 1 ghost car drove down the forest path. About 5 minutes later, they returned and showed us a photo of the girl. The cops said they found her with 1 man, which made no sense because less than 10 minutes earlier, we had seen her completely alone running. They also said neither of them would identify themselves or explain why they were in there. They brushed us off, saying we could go home now. As we walked away, we saw 3 people get into a police car, which made it even weirder because earlier they said there was only 1 guy with her. So was there really someone following us in the woods? I keep thinking, what if this was like a bait for something? Maybe the only reason they didn't go after us is because we started screaming? Either way, I can't stop thinking about it. Yeah, that's really weird, especially because it was 3 in the morning. Nothing good comes at being out at 3 in the morning. Walking in the forest in the dark, 2 girls, that's just bad vibes all around. So I'm glad you guys are okay and nothing actually happened to you, but that's just really weird. And I'm really curious what the girl was doing and if she knew those men. I don't know, everything about that was just fucking weird. The next story that I'm gonna read is from the Backwoods Creepy section. It's still a Let's Not Meet story, but that's just where I found it. And it's from the Reddit author Dumb Blonde. and it's titled Unsettling Experience in Northwest Montana. My boyfriend and I, both 20, were up at Libby Creek gold panning area on the evening of July 3rd from about 7 to 10 p.m. We met this genuinely really cool guy with his son who showed us how to do it. We had just done a road trip and gold panned and wanted to pick it up as a fun hobby. Super cool family and helped us for about 2.5 hours. He took us down to an area he had claim on. The man started telling us about how him and his son found a human arm down the path that we were on. Now, I know this sounds insane, but the son swore he saw it too, and he was only about 11. Telling us about how lots of people go missing up here in the woods and no one ever hears about it or finds them again. Apparently, there's tons of people living off the grid that they don't want to be found for any reason. The government estimated over 10,000 people after some of the latest wildfires. The guy wasn't weird or creepy at all, just genuinely trying to let us know the possible dangers of us being out there. Halfway through the evening at about 8:30, I went to grab a sweatshirt and I saw a dark gray truck with a hardcover canopy drive by with his dogs barking. No big deal. I grabbed my sweatshirt and then I went back to our spot down in the creek. The man and his son left around 9:30 and we went back to our car around 9:35. My boyfriend wanted to check out a different area on the other side of the bridge, so we headed down there and I stayed in the car. It's important to note this area has decent light until about 10:30 at night. He started walking back up about 5 minutes later, saying he got a feeling that he was being watched. Meanwhile, while I was in the car, I had the same feeling. I'm not a superstitious or anxious person, but I felt scared for my life, and I had no clue why because it just came out of absolutely nowhere. Seconds after he's back in the car, the same exact truck that I saw earlier drives by, then stops halfway on the bridge for about a minute. The guy backs up and kind of blocks us in out of the pullout we're in and gets out of his truck and starts asking us what we're doing. My boyfriend tells him that we were just leaving and asks if he owns the land and that we were just trying to be respectful and let him know that we're on our way out. He says, no, I don't own it, and that he's going fishing in the area with his dogs. But at 10 p.m., I don't know, we're not local to the area. We live over the border in Idaho, but this just seems like an odd time to go fishing. He got back in his truck to back out more and then stopped again and started honking at us when we were turning around about to leave. He got out of his car again and asked if we were looking for something. Immediately felt even weirder vibes than before. We told him we were going gold panning, but leaving. He starts going on about a campground up the road and that we should go up there as it's private. He was going on and on, trying to convince us to camp out here in the middle of buttfuck nowhere. Again, we told him we were going home, and then he finally backed off as we drove away. We both discussed how we had the same gut feeling someone was watching us and that something bad was going to happen. I personally think that the man had been watching us, or at least me, from down or up the creek at one of the pullouts, and possibly thought I was alone since he saw me go to the car alone. Then when he saw the other truck leave, and it was just one car, that's when he came up the road and arrived just seconds after my boyfriend got in the car with me. We both think he was trying to get me alone to do God knows what. The fact he saw me clear as day twice when I was obviously alone was really unsettling. We don't think he was going fishing either, because as we were leaving, we saw him heading down the path without his dogs or any fishing gear. He or someone had to have been watching us. Luckily, I do have a gun in my car with me just in case. Now, I know a lot of people probably think we were just anxious and freaking out from what the man and his son had told us, but the guy in the truck was giving us the creepiest vibes ever. I've been stalked and almost attacked by a mountain lion, and I wasn't as scared as I was then compared to when this creepy guy was talking to us. I don't know, it could just be all coincidental, but it seems too perfectly timed. Yeah, I agree, that's really fucking weird. I hate when people approach you and you're clearly uncomfortable and you don't want to continue talking to them and you're trying to leave and they just like aren't getting the hint. Like, back off. I'm trying to back out of my parking spot and you're literally blocking me in with your truck. Like, are you kidding? Go away. Like I said, people are fucking strange. I don't understand why people do this kind of shit. The next one that I'm gonna read is from the Let's Not Meet section. It's from the Reddit author Batshit Crazy Bay, and it's titled, The Man Who Followed Me to the Park. I have lived alone since I was about 18. When I was around 18 or 19, I would often take walks to the park that wasn't too far from my apartment complex. I had a boyfriend, ex-boyfriend now, but unfortunately was at work when I decided to go out for my walk. I should mention now that there was a bus stop at the left end of my street that wasn't too far from the park. I remember stopping at the end of the block, waiting for the cars to let me pass, then for some reason looked over at the bus stop and I saw a man staring down at me. After noticing this, I really didn't care if the cars would let me pass or not, so I just walked into the road. I did almost get hit, but I just wanted to be far away from that creepy dude. There was a high school that was probably about 5 to 10 minutes away from the park, and I remember looking back at the school because it was a school I was currently attending at the time. Then I saw that the man was staring at me down from the bus stop, was now following me. I started slightly panicking, and I even texted my ex-boyfriend about how I'm pretty sure I was being followed. I kept looking back behind me to make sure that there was good sizable distance between him and I. I knew if I would have slowed my pace, something bad was going to happen. I eventually got to the park and I started getting really anxious. My reason being the park entrance was down a hill and split into 2 separate paths that you couldn't see into due to the trees simply being in the way. Knowing that nobody would have been able to see what could have happened to me, I chose to go down one of the 2 paths. I was off from work and school that day and it was 2 p.m., which typically meant no one was in the park around that time. As I started walking down the winding hill, I saw a woman with 2 kids and a dog. I remember the instant relief, furthermore, the safety I felt when seeing her. I even picked up my pace to get to her quicker because I was scared out of my mind. I still remember the exact conversation I had with her to this day. "Hi, I know this may sound weird, but I live down this hill, and while I was crossing the intersection where the bus stop was, I noticed a man staring at me, then started following me. Can you just act like you know me, and if he comes down here, walk with me?" Before she could even reply, I tilted my head up to the man, who was about to come down the freaking hill. When I did that, I think he slightly panicked and started walking away. She saw the seriousness of the situation and gathered up her kids in the stroller. I don't know what made him decide to do this next, but as she was trying to get things packed, he at some point turned back around and was now coming back down the hill. I told her that he was coming down and the woman moved quicker than ever and got things packed up. I even started helping. As he walked up to us, he immediately started trying to ask me questions. I can't remember what he said, but I remember the woman was pretty much answering for me. I guess he tried to ask if we knew each other, which of course she did lie by telling him that we knew each other and I was coming down to walk back with her. I do know I backed her up with this claim. I just wanted this guy to leave me, and now her alone. He asked us a couple more questions and eventually we excused ourselves and started our way back up the hill. I remember the woman I had met walked with me all the way down to the intersection where the bus stop was across from. She was clearly very shooken up due to the fact that the guy had eventually started following me and her back. I felt so bad for dragging her into the situation. I didn't know if he would try to follow me all the way back home if we broke off there, or if he would decide to aim new focus onto this new woman, who was just simply at a park playing with her kids. Before he could get too close to us, I walked over to some construction workers whom were now working on the high school sign. I explained the situation to them and I told them about how we thought it was weird how the man who was initially just following me was now following me and the woman. I pleaded them to call the cops and if he went past the bus stop or start following the lady. The construction workers happily agreed, and the woman and I went our own ways. I don't know what happened to that man. I don't know if he was arrested or not. However, an hour later, my ex-boyfriend had gotten home from work and he went out to run an errand. As he was driving up the hill, there was 4 police cars parked around the intersection where I told the construction workers to call the police if the man was still trying to follow me. I'm just glad the police were called, especially with the high school being so close. I couldn't have forgiven myself if he had tried to follow some poor high school student who was just walking home. So to the man who was wearing a red and blue puffer jacket, who decided to follow me to a place I would go to that considered peaceful and content and safe, thank you for teaching me to be more aware of people. But let's not meet ever again. Yeah, that's just a weird story all around. Like, no good came from that. Why is he following you? Why is he following a young girl home and then now following you and the other woman? Like, I'm wondering what the construction worker said to them, because it probably wasn't very pleasant and they probably told him to like get the fuck out of here. But that's just all around creepy and I don't love that. The last story that I'm going to read is from the Creepy Encounter section. It is from the Reddit author Norville Rogers and it's titled Clowns at My School Fence. Background info. I grew up in a small town in Spain called Olivia, where every Friday there would be a market along the promenade through the town. It was always very busy because there were locals who would shop for fresh fruit and vegetables for the upcoming week. There were stalls full of cheap, colorful, and noisy toys for kids, and sometimes in summer there would be a guy making balloon animals. Overall, it was a widely diverse market in terms of who was there and what was being sold. The market trailed off in the same area at the very end of our school's playground. The playground in the primary school was huge. It wasn't a field, but it was full of trees, and the dirt on the ground was great for digging and getting into huge muddy messes. Right at the end of the playground, there was a bench, and that's where the cool older kids used to hang out. The oldest at the primary school would have been around 13. What separated the playground from the market was a long, weak chain link fence that kids would usually grip onto and swing. There wasn't much stopping us kids from climbing over and leaving the school. During these Fridays, at playtime and at lunchtime, our lunchtimes were 3 hours long. The majority of the kids would hang out in the playground near this fence, expecting to see family members doing their weekly shop. Sometimes grandparents would stop by and give the kids fresh snacks they'd bought from the market. Other times, sellers from the market would come by and try to sell sweets to the kids. In this town, this behavior wasn't frowned upon or banned. The dinner ladies would occasionally get angry at people selling us sweets, but only because we wouldn't eat our dinner then. Anyway, now that that's covered, I'll get to the creepy encounter. It was a Friday and it was lunchtime. The market was thriving and bustling, except in the area near the bottom of our playground. It was a sunny day, so the majority of the kids were hanging out near the chain link fence that separated the market from our school, in the hopes that a family member would come by and give them some treats from the market. The dinner ladies would occasionally make rounds at the playground, but it was hot, so they would usually sit on the top of the playground in the shade. There was about a 5-minute walk from the bottom. I don't exactly remember how they appeared, but I remember being called over, "Come and see," by one of the other kids. As we walked toward the chain link fence, it was clear, even from a distance, from the way that they were dressed and the vivid colors, that there were 2 grown men dressed in clown costumes. However, there was something off about them. Really, that's the only thing that's off about them other than the clown costumes? There was something off about them. Their costumes were mismatched and dirty. They looked like they were scavenged through to find them in a bin. They were wearing plastic clown masks with no wigs, and as I approached the fence, I noticed that their shoes were dirty and torn. Usually whenever there was a parade through the town, there would be some people dressed as clowns, but these were different. Clowns usually had professional face paint and their own faces, expensive looking costumes, and a cart full of popcorn, or at least some long balloons to make balloon animals. These clowns were empty-handed and dirty. As I neared the fence, I could begin to hear the muffled voices of these men. These voices were muffled because of the plastic masks they were wearing. They were asking us for our names, our ages. They asked where our supervision was and what time the gates opened for parents to come and collect the kids. Stupidly, some of the kids gave them answers that they were looking for. As they were asking more and more questions, one kid threw a stone and hit one of the clowns. They were immediately fuming, yelling things like, "We're going to wait for you," and "You're going to regret that," amidst a few swear words not only directed at a kid who threw it, but at the small group who had gathered. One of the kids got scared and ran to get to the dinner lady, but the men dressed as clowns noticed this and they quickly left. So as the dinner lady arrived, the men had long gone. Very quickly, we all started to panic and things got out of hand very fast. Most of us began to cry and wanted to go home, unsurprisingly, as these men already had information about us and when the school gates open. The police were called and the dinner ladies were told to bring us to the lunch hall and not let any of us leave. As a small kid, this genuinely felt like it was the end of the world. I still don't know what happened as a result of the police getting called, but I do doubt that they found the men. I still wonder what the men wanted. Maybe they were trying to scare us to entertain themselves. Either way, whatever their motive, it never happened again, but was enough to give me a phobia of clowns and a recurring nightmare for 3 years after the event until I moved back to England. Everything about that story is fucked up. That's terrifying. Why are there grown men dressed in clown costumes talking to children? Everything about that sentence, fucked up. I hate clowns. They're terrifying as is, but there was nothing good about that. That entire scenario just reminds me of like Pennywise eating children. There's no good explanation or reason why grown men in dirty clown costumes should be approaching children at a school. Everything about that is terrifying. I'm glad the supervisors were notified. I'm glad the police were called. And I really hope these men were found and charged because that's fucked up. So this is where I'm gonna end the video. So we read 4 creepy let's not meet stories because I don't wanna meet any of those people. Those are fucking terrifying stories. I hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you guys made it to the end of the video, leave me a clown emoji in my comment section down below. It lets me know you made it to the end of the video. It also helps me boost my engagement on YouTube because YouTube doesn't like to promote me anymore. So that's fun. So if you guys did enjoy this video, please make sure to like, follow, subscribe, all of the above. If you have any creepy stories that you want to share with me, please feel free to either reach out over Instagram or over my email, and I would love to read your guys' creepy stories. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys at the next video. Bye.